Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, good morning and welcome. Thursday edition Sidelines, college football, basketball, baseball, lots to talk about tonight. Tips off, Sweet 16. We'll be covering that in full. Spring practice underway, college baseball going on everywhere. And we'll have a lineup today. You're going to love it. We'll be joined here in a moment by University of Memphis President Dr. Bill Hargraves. He'll give us his vision of what he's trying to do there in Memphis for the Tigers. Second segment, Gary Harris, Tide 100.9, WVUA TV channel 23 in Tuscaloosa, checks in. Of course, Alabama in the Sweet 16, chasing the national championship. Hour number 2, the AD angle. Matt Dean over in Memphis at Rhodes, John Hartwell, AD at ULM. We'll talk some of the business side of college athletics, as well as we will get into basketball. John played his college basketball at the Citadel, one of the fun places to go get a great education. And Matt, of course, coached it 16 years. And we're going to cover and get their thoughts on Sweet 16. I love to see everybody's brackets. I was told by a very, very smart friend of mine, and Dr. Hargraves is with us now. And I think Dr. Hargraves knows a little bit about analytics and all. There of ESPN's 20 million brackets that they had after the first day of basketball, of those 20 million, there were only 653 brackets that were still perfect. So, Dr. Hargraves, if you had the calculator out, doing a little Jethro Bodine, gazendas and knots, that's a very low percentage. But anyway, it's a great time of year. But we're really, man, we're honored to have you on here. And Camp Lee, one of our sponsors, Rumble Gym, rumbleboxing.com. It's awesome. It's one of our sponsors, and they've got 3 locations they're opening up in Memphis. The first one at Union and McLean. And she's like, they've got discounts at the Founders Club now, but it's rumbleboxinggym.com/Midtown Memphis. She said every University of Memphis student needs to come over here. They've got 24 weight stations, 24 of the punching bags, and in the middle, 45-minute workouts. And she's one of our sponsors and wanted to get that out. She said, I'm looking forward to hearing Dr. Bill Hargraves, as are a lot of people who know you and are excited about you, about to wrap up your first anniversary at the University of Memphis. So, again, I'll let you take it from here. And what's your vision for the university and what you've learned, what you like, what you don't like and all in the first year, and where you're going?
Hey, well, Rob, appreciate you having me on this morning.
Yeah.
And good to see you. I'm coming up on a year. It's been a very exciting year. We, when I came in, the university had over the last several years has just continued to improve and grow in its stature. So one of the things that the Board of Trustees asked me to do when they hired me was look at down the road, where do we need to go next? And so I spent the last several months really getting to know the city, getting to know the university. And then we took a hard look at where we're at, where we've been, and knowing where higher education is going to go. We just wrote a new comprehensive strategic plan, and which was adopted by the Board of Trustees on March 1st, which sets us on a path to being a nationally recognized public research university. And so we got the plan in place. Now it's time to execute.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of great motivation speakers when I'm out running, biking, walking, whatever. Only about 5% of people really have a clear vision of what they want to do. 95% of the people are out there just trying to wing it. You've got a PhD in information systems from Oak State, I believe.
That's
and
right.
You were at Arkansas 17 years, Walton College of Business. And then Mr. Louder and you got together and you came to Auburn in 2009. And from 2010 to 2017, you increased enrollment in the College of Business there by 47%. And I think the significance of that is, I think you told me, or our good friend Maury Gaston, quite the statistician, mechanical engineer, Shout out to pocket protectors and hush puppies. I love them. My dad's an architect, and he and the engineers, those engineer and architect jokes are hilarious if you're an engineer or an architect. But anyway, Maury said the most incredible statistic I've ever seen from where you were, 6,400 plus students in the College of Business at Auburn now, 6,200 in engineering. That has never happened. That's like an ice storm in the Everglades. And that's because of your vision. Now transfer that here to Memphis. April 1st was your first official day. And when Joel Johnson and I met you over at Charb on Highland for lunch back in mid-June, in your suit, you walked from your office across campus. I think that's impressive because it tells me you want to get to know the students that you're there to lead.
Well, I have tried to get out and about. And look, we all have to take ownership of where we want to go. And, in my previous stints, as you mentioned, I think we've had success by taking ownership of where we want to go, because this is not my vision of where the university should go, because if it's just my vision and I have to execute on it, then we'll never get there. This is a collective vision, and it'll be a collective effort, because it's going to take, we have 22,000 students, 4,300 faculty and staff, and it's going to take every one of us to get us where we need to go, because this plan is pretty aggressive and comprehensive. This is not one where you say, you know what, hey, this is the trains are running on time. Let's just keep it that way. That's not what this plan's about. We're gonna face some serious changes in higher education, especially around the demographics of those who are going to college over the next several years. And if we're not ready, we will be in a world of hurt. Fortunately, I think we're going to be ready by the plan. There are going to be universities out there, to your point, that are just kind of meandering about. They're going to wake up in a few years, and it's going to be a very dire situation for many.
Yeah, and there's so much talk about conference realignment and getting into. There's the Power Five, there's the Group of Five, and I was talking to a friend of mine last night. He said, look at basketball. It's not really the Power Five; it's the Power Six. And I said, well, it's more than that, because look at the Sweet 16. You got 8 schools from the Power Five conferences. The other 8 are not. And they went from 351 to 363 schools that are eligible to make the March Madness tournament. Everybody, if they've got the right vision, should be wanting to compete for championships in everything they do in academics and athletics. So you come to a place like Memphis. I don't believe in putting ceilings on anything or anybody. And I've seen growing up in Memphis, and when that university is winning in any sport, it pulls this city together. It's a magnetic attraction. And to keep that going, you got a choice. You can say, well, let's just hope it works. But really you think success is a burden, or you say, okay, that was yesterday. What are we doing today? You're kind of the latter. You're a planner. So when you meet with people, what kind of reaction are you getting when you present the plan that you and your team have for the University of Memphis?
Well, so far it's been incredibly well received, and it will continue. I think it will continue to be that way as long as we can continue to have success. And look, anytime you put forth a new plan, one of the best things you can do to ensure the long-term success of the plan is get some early wins. And there's some things that we'll do to really shore up some of the elements that we know are coming, and we'll get some early wins. But I want to step back for just a second and tie in athletics to what we're trying to do with the plan. I told you that the plan is really to get us to be a nationally recognized public research university. Yeah. Here's the reality. If you look at the beginnings of this university from 1912, we were really formed on being a laboratory school for preparing teachers. And of course, the university has grown significantly, and its mission has grown beyond that. But we have done such a phenomenal job of serving the Memphis, Shelby County area here and the state of Tennessee as a regional university. But over the past several years, we've become more national. Our athletics, have more of a national reach. In December 21, We received the Carnegie R1 designation that puts us among the top 150 universities in the country for research. So here we were, Rob, moving along, and we've been a regional university that has kind of grown and now has some kind of tentacles, if you will, into the national. So the fork in the road for us was, all right, do we go down this path of being a national university, or do we kind of pull back and double down and really just focus on being a regional university? And there's implications either way, right? Look, if you're a regional institution and really focused on just serving the region and being a teaching institution, then we don't have to make those investments in research. We don't have to worry about our athletics being on a national stage. But what we heard convincingly with more than 1,100 people who provided input along the way, we need a plan for getting this to be a national university. That's what the Board of Trustees told me. That's what we've done. Now, here's where athletics plays a part in that, because part of to being a national university, we have to extend our geographic footprint, if you will, beyond the state of Tennessee. Again, we serve the state. 83% of our students come from the state of Tennessee. We have to get more national. We've got to reach out there and get students coming in from all over the U.S. One of the ways you do that is through the visibility of your athletics programs. Yeah. You know, when we were in the NCAA tournament, there were a lot of people who were seeing this leaping tiger, right? Yeah. On a national stage. When we're playing in bowl games, it puts us on a national stage, and we have students and parents who are not familiar with us that see us play, like the way we play, you know, like the way we look, and then go out and find out more information. So that becomes a front door for our national effort. So they really go, you know, athletics plays a key role even in the academic side of it. And a lot of people lose sight of that, right? But the athletics plays a key role in that.
Well, you know, again, people will tell you athletics, your sports programs are the front porch to your university. And you look at look at the Google search and the analytics on a school like St. Peter's last year, small private Catholic school up in New Jersey, when they beat Kentucky. And you look at enrollment at a school when you're winning in football. I think the high water mark for University of Memphis football that I've ever seen was November 1st of 2019 when ESPN Game Day came down on Beale Street. Probably 20,000 people there. And, you know, Reese Davis, who I used to work with at ESPN, said that was one of the 3 or 4 best he's ever seen in his life. We used to work at Channel 3 in Columbus. And he's from Hamilton, Alabama. But it was unbelievable what it did for this city. So we all know things that go on in every city. There are 2 kinds of people. There are people that wake up on a rainy day and roll over and hit the snooze button. Or the people like you, me, wake up and go, hell, I got a great rain jacket. I paid a lot of money for it. Let's get to work. That's what you're going to do. You're going to find excuses to win. I mean, you exude confidence. It's like my father told me one time, he said, you ever meet a guy like Fred Smith at FedEx, the founder? You shake hands with that guy. It's like hooking up to a Hoover Dam for energy. He exudes confidence. He doesn't talk about what he wants to do. It's what he's doing because he's committed. So having that vision for athletics, a lot of people will say, well, you'll never be able to do it at a commuter school, you know, whatever. BS. That is not true. What is true is you've got a lot of people that buy that and just say, you know, let's go along to get along. You've got to break the mold, don't you?
Well, we do to some extent, you know, people around here and, you know, the university, the entire city loves sports, right? And loves their sports teams. But, you know, there's a certain amount of defeatist attitude, you know, just from, you know, just years of not being recognized for how good this university and how good our athletics program is. And look, I'd like to say I get that, but I don't, because I'm new to this area, new to this university. So I think for me, I come at it saying, look, I don't care what's happened in the past. We look forward, and we're going to position ourselves to be the very best we can. And you know, I've been looking at the numbers, and part of it, Rob, I think, is just we've got to do a better job of telling our story. Right. You look at basketball. You know, I was looking at some numbers earlier today, and there's if you look at, and I'll compare it to some Big 12 schools, right?
Yeah.
If you look at for the last 5 years, there are two schools. I'm going to include us in here. When you compare it to the Big 12, that's had in basketball 20 plus win seasons in the past 5 years. That would be University of Memphis and the University of Kansas. That's it. So, a comparison to the Big 12, that's pretty good company, right? If you look at the last 5 years in football that went to a bowl game every year for the past 5 years, it would be the University of Memphis and Oklahoma State. So it puts us, when you start looking at our success and you extend that success in basketball, for example, over the past 20 years, I think there's been maybe two other teams besides the University of Memphis that's had 18 plus winning seasons. And that's I think that's Kansas and Gonzaga. Well, that's again, that puts us in pretty good company. So I don't know that we've done a good job of telling that story. This year, for example, Rob, there were 4 schools that had postseason play in men and women's basketball, football, and men and women's soccer. 4 schools: Duke, UCLA, Clemson, and the University of Memphis.
Yeah. Hold those thoughts. We're going to take a break real quick. I want to come back. That's exactly, you got to tell the story and you can't look back. You can never look back. Remember that great line, Don Henley's song? But it's true. You got to look ahead. We're going to be right back with the visionary, Dr. Bill Hargraves, right after this quick commercial message. Say something real quick, too, about one of our sponsors, Eleanor Maynard, Hobson Realty in Memphis, third-generation Hobson realtor. Last year, Eleanor was top 5% out of 4,600 realtors in the Memphis market. If you are living in Memphis, looking to buy or sell a home, you're getting relocated to Memphis like Dr. Bill Hargraves did last year when he moved to Memphis to start his job April 1st. Look on the website, sidelines.live, for the Hobson Realty hyperlink. Click on that. It's a turnkey operation. You got to get mortgage people. You got to get bankers. You might need some builders to do some work on a house. Call Eleanor Maynard at Hobson Realty. She will get everything started. She'll be your quarterback, okay? Proud to have her as a sponsor. We're going to have her on the show here in the next week or so, introduce you to her. But Eleanor Maynard, Sidelines Realtor. Dr. Hargrave, so much of what people hear is just repeated urban myths and whatever over and over and over. Very few people have original thoughts. You have a board of trustees to work for. Dr. Rudd, he was there when that started. Memphis didn't used to have a board of trustees. Now, let's be honest. Those guys can be a PITA, and you know what I mean, a PITA, figure out those initials, or they can be great for you. If you've got boosters that have a vision, and I think of my school at Auburn, you cannot thank the people like Mr. Louder enough, because I think he would give his last drop of blood for that school. Gets up every morning at 5:30, walks around the campus. That's what you got to have. I know so many Memphis grads that are starved for leadership. They are dying for it. Like you cannot imagine. And they're listening right now and they're going, well, what about getting us into, one of these Power 5 conferences, or what are we doing? Because even if you didn't go to University of Memphis, you should care deeply about what happens on that campus, because it provides employees for businesses here that are attracted here. And the stronger that school is, a rising tide floats every boat.
Yeah, Rob, one of the things that I didn't know coming in about a year ago. But by the way, just as a shout out to your sponsor, a year ago when I came in, it was Hobson Realtors that I worked with to get here. So shout out to them. They did a fantastic job for us.
They are.
But one of the things I didn't realize coming in a year ago was the importance of this university to this city. And in most big urban settings where you have an urban university, the university does not play a significant role in that city at all. In fact, the cities don't embrace the university kind of its own. It's just a university of the city. You look around, and I've heard the mayor say that there are kind of three pillars that hold up this city: FedEx, St. Jude, and the University of Memphis. Well, that's pretty good company. I'll take that type of company any day. But it also suggests the responsibility that we have. But Rob, we take that on gladly. So if you look around, Houston doesn't have that with the university. University of Houston doesn't have that in Houston. University of Cincinnati doesn't have that in Cincinnati. Georgia Tech or Georgia State doesn't have that in Atlanta. I mean, you just don't see a city embrace a university like this city does. And one of the things that when we look at how do we position ourselves to be the very best we can in athletics, right? To be in whatever conference is the best for us. The city of Memphis is a key part of that, right? Because when fans travel with teams, they want to go to a place that's going to be fun to go to with good facilities. Yeah. Now, admittedly, our facilities are not where they need to be, especially in football, right? Yeah. Now, we don't own our facilities. The city owns our facilities, but they're working very hard. The governor has put money in the budget to renovate the Simmons Bank Liberty Bowl, Liberty Stadium. And so that will change the perception and our ability to align with bigger and better football programs, if you will, just because our stadium has held us back a little bit. Of course, the FedEx Forum, is our basketball. Again, that's not ours, but it's a phenomenal setting for our basketball program. And again, I think they're looking to update as well. But facilities wise, we need a little work on the football side. But otherwise, it really comes down to, are we a school that is on an academic level with other schools in that conference, wherever that conference may be? Do we have the facilities that we need? Do we have the viewership? And look, that's when we talk about conference realignment, Rob, there's a lot of things that come into play. Ultimately, it comes down to eyeballs, that's watching the games either in person or online, because it's about the media rights, and that's a huge part of it.
Yeah. Well, when you go, and a lot of times people, the default is go to this company or that company and ask them for money. You can only do that so many times. I know from working on campaigns and fundraising, 95% of the people have never been asked. But when you ask them, like, they feel honored, like, wow, yes. Because really, if you call it what it is, if you got 60,000 people in the Liberty Bowl, that's like a shareholders meeting. All those people are spending money, and they have a vested interest in that university. You ask a client, if I ask a client of mine for an idea, every time I talk to that client, you know what they're going to say? How's that working out? Yep. You are a planner. You can't go to somebody and say, we need $15 million. Okay, you better have a plan. That's where you come in with your business, your analytical mind. So talk about the vision that you've laid out, because there are a lot of people that are listening right now going, hell, I'd love to help. We have Butch Thompson on here every week, and I always say, how can people help you? And he goes, here's my email. I may not get back to you for a week or two, but I promise I will. But you're an extrovert with an incredible mind. That's a powerful combination.
Well, Rob, you're right on. And look, in my experience, here's what I found is that people want to invest when they know that their investment is going to yield something good, right? It's not about just going out and say, hey, I'm Bill from the University of Memphis. I need some money. What do you need some money for? Well, we just we just don't have the money we need. Well, okay, that doesn't cut it, right? So that's really the power behind a plan, is that now we have a plan where we can go in and say, look, right now, we now know what we have to do on a national level to recruit students here. And here are 3 areas that we are going to need investments in to help us get that enrollment that we need. It's around need-based scholarships. It's about the services that students need. It's about our recruiting efforts. In research, we are, recruiting and retaining the best faculty is one of the things we need. Well, look, we have to invest in those faculty, right? And so here's where we need. And so we can lay out athletics, the same thing, right? Now, if this is the path that we're on, here are the things that we need. It's just not about, hey, write us a check and we'll try to do good things to it. We view this, Rob, just like you do in your business. When somebody comes to you and they want to make an investment, they're not making an investment just hoping that something good will happen. You've got to have a plan to say, look, when you make this investment, here is where we're going to go with this. And by the way, I'm going to show you every year how your investment is paid off. Because if that investment's paying off, you know what people do, Rob? They invest more, right?
That's right.
And that's what we want, is we want people to see that we are being good stewards of that. We're investing those funds, and they are returning the dividends that they not only expected, but we far exceed what they expected.
Yeah. Well, the best book I read a lot of, it talks about 3 things you got to have to accomplish a mission: responsibility, authority, and accountability. That third one is critical. And so you ask somebody, the guy may be worth several $1 billion. The ones that I know that have that, significant wealth, if you're going to ask them to borrow $100, by God, you better have a plan. Yep. And that's what's so important. Look at the University of Memphis Law School. I talked to someone who helped them raise money for that. I said, how did you get the money? He goes, I went to the meeting. I stood in the back and I raised my hand and I said, how much money do you need? He gave me a number. And I said, how fast did you get that money? He said, it was quick, because they had a plan. The engineering, the College of Engineering, the business school, what FedEx and all those other people invest into it. They've got some really good, the School of Nursing, that College of Nursing on the South Campus, impressive. It's really, if you think about it, it's telling the story. The Marine Corps tells 10 times as much of their history in basic training in 13 weeks as any other branch of the armed services. You think it's an accident or just sheer luck that nobody in the world has more pride, pound for pound, than the United States Marine? That's a shout out to my brother-in-law, Kurt Ham, 26 years in the Marine Corps. So had to say that.
Well, Rob, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about telling the story, right? We're talking about that on the athletic side. I don't think we've done a good job of telling our story. I don't think we've done a good job of telling our story overall. And part of it's, it's kind of a humbleness that comes with being a public institution and, in Memphis. But hey, look, it's not bragging if you're telling the truth, right? We got to go out and we've got to tell people about the phenomenal things that are going on here, because there's more going on here every day, Rob. I get surprised, pleasantly surprised with what's going on here. I walk in and go, what? We're doing that? Why are we not telling the world about this? So there's so many good things because, and again, you go back to our investing scenario here. Look, when we start getting investing and people see that things are going well, people like to invest in a winner. That itself will attract more people to want to help us out. And we're going to need more companies and more people helping us out. But people want to see, oh, you know what? They're going in the right direction. I want to be part of that. So look, we're going to be patient. I'm not a real patient person, but we're going to be patient, and we're going to do this the right way. And we're going to set this university up for not only the next 5 years, but for the next 2 decades.
That's right. And look, I know you've got a tight schedule, and I promised we would have you out by 8:30. So tell people how they can reach out to you and what are the best ways to help support University of Memphis. You've got a plan. They may want to read it or what have you.
Yep. Hey, go to our website. Our plan is called Ascend, ASCEND, right? To move to the higher level. It's out there. We're going to be very transparent. We're going to put all that out there. We're going to put our key performance indicators, those KPIs, so people can see our dashboard. They'll know whether we're making progress. We're going to be held accountable. I told the board of trustees, look, the board of trustees have a major job is to hire and fire the president. How do they know I'm doing my job? Those KPIs. Look at those KPIs. I'll be held accountable for that. But we're going to hold people across the campus accountable for that.
Yeah, well, you have quite experience of dealing with boards of trustees. You eat that stuff for breakfast, man. I mean, that's the thing about you. It's just you look at your resume and your career. You've won everywhere you've been. Your result, but I love that new acronym, KPIs, key performance indicators. All right, look. Bottom line, you know what I love too? You listen to the sports radio shows in Memphis every day. It's about the Tiger. What'll kill a program quicker than wins and losses is apathy, isn't it? You got a lot of people that care. So y'all know how to connect with Dr. Hargrave. But, Doc, thank you so much for coming on here with us, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Rob, appreciate you. Look forward to being on here again. Take care. It's good to see you, my friend.
Thank you so much. That's a vision, man. You talk about having a plan, key performance indicators with anything that you do. You may know somebody that's worth a lot of money. Dadgummit, if you're going to them and you want their support to see if they want to invest in an idea that you have, you better have a written, detailed plan. People don't plan to fail, but they fail to plan most of the time. I know it. You know it. We all remember back in college, the first day of class, the first week when the syllabus is handed out from the professor. I'll never forget an econ class I had in college, and the professor said, all right, there's 250 plus people in this auditorium for this class. We triage things, okay? Those of you that want to learn, sit in the front 1/3 of the seats, okay? Those of you that want to sleep, sit in the middle. Those of you that want to talk, sit in the back of the auditorium. But remember, those of you that are sitting in the back that want to talk, don't talk too loud, because you'll wake up the people sitting in the middle who are trying to sleep through my class. And I'll give you five excused absences a day. So think about that. All right, let's head down to Tuscaloosa, down in Tuscaloosa County. Tide 100.9 WVUA TV 23 sports anchor emeritus, Gary Harris. And Gary, not much going on. You got college baseball, you got spring practice, you got the Sweet 16, you got softball, whacking and stacking them. Other than that, what is there to talk about this time of year?
Man, you got me driving. You got me driving in to do my show. I was going to try to get on into the station this morning, but I had to do another show before I jumped on with you. And so, of course, we've done this often. With my show coming on at 9, you catch me driving in a lot. But you're right. It's it's that time. I've got, of course, I was in Birmingham last week for the 2 games, first and second round of the South Regional there at Legacy Arena. I'm staying back this time. We got 4 people on the road this morning to Louisville for news and sports coverage beginning tonight on WVUA 23 News at 5, 6, and 10. But I'm going to stay back here and anchor our coverage because we got Pro Day today. Obviously, a lot of attention on Bryce Young and his workout. The entire Carolina Panthers brass is here, from the owner, David Tepper, to the head coach, Frank Reich, to the GM, a lot of their support personnel. They had dinner with Bryce last night. And of course, obviously, you've got baseball, you got softball. It is a busy time, but I think that, right now, most of the attention is on this Alabama men's basketball team, hoping to go where no Alabama men's basketball team has gone before, and that's to the Final Four.
Well, in the stock market, you call it climbing the wall of worry, but the higher you climb, the more you can just feel it. But you got to be loose, because you can't play and do well tight. It's like taking a test. If you're nervous and you get stumped on a question, it can mess up 5 in a row. But Alabama's looking like they're having a lot of fun. They looked really strong in their 2 games at Legacy Arena. This San Diego State team, they look like, I keep saying it, but I'm not the only one. They look like a football team in basketball uniforms. It's the Mountain West. Them and Utah State both made the tournament this year. What have you seen out of San Diego State that makes you think, okay, this or that area is going to be a problem? And where do you see Alabama just potentially winning by 25?
There's a lot to unwrap there, Rob, and I think you're on it. I was on a show in San Diego yesterday, and the host asked me. He said, "Man, is there anybody?"
Gary, let's take a timeout. Okay. Timeout real quick. I didn't even see the clock. We're going to take a quick break. Going to be right back with Gary Harris, Tide 100.9.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn. Just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Gary, we had to take a quick break there, but you were beginning to unwrap multiple questions and one question that I asked you, the run-on sentence. But anyway, let's keep going.
Yeah, well, I was on a show in San Diego yesterday, and the host asked me, he said, "Is there anybody in Alabama that thinks, the Aztecs have a chance in this game?" And I said, "Yeah, there are a lot of people." I said, if you knew the basketball history of Alabama, this has been the round where the Tide has gotten stuck. This is the 10th Sweet 16 appearance for Alabama men's basketball in the NCAA tournament, Rob. So getting to this point has, happened frequently. Alabama's right up there with, I think, Missouri and Tennessee as teams that have the most NCAA tournament victories, the most appearances without a Final Four. Alabama's there aren't that many schools left that have been to the tournament this many times and as many tournament games as Alabama has that doesn't have a trip to the Final Four. So I think there's pressure in that sense. And when you've been knocked out of this round as many times as Alabama has, that the deeper you go, the harder it gets. And when you look at this San Diego State team, you made a good point. I mean, this is a veteran physical basketball team. They got 7 seniors on their roster. They got a lot of transfer players that have played a lot of basketball, guys that have won a lot of letters. So they've been around the block, they've played together, and they are physical, and they are a really good defensive team. And they, can get on the glass, and they can block shots. Now, offensively, they're not great, but they don't have to be, and if they do make some shots, they can be really tough. But what they want to do is take the blueprint that some other teams have had, whether it's Tennessee, even Mississippi State in the regular season, even though Houston lost, Houston plays that way. And they want to try to get up into Alabama shooters. They want to give them a lot of trouble in regards to their offense and get them out of sync and try to keep this game as a low-scoring game. So I see two scenarios here. For San Diego State to have a shot, Rob, I do think that they've got to stay within striking distance. In other words, if Alabama runs out like the way they have on some of these teams in the first half and they get up 15, 20 points, I don't think San Diego State is equipped to come back. But if they can stay within striking distance, keep it to single digits in the first half, let's say get this thing down to the 5 or 6 minute mark and it's a 6 or 7 point game, they'll have a shot to win. So either they're going to win or lose a close game and take it down to the wire, or I think Alabama, as you said, Alabama has the potential to win this thing handily. If Alabama gets in rhythm offensively, man, they can blow out a lot of teams. We've seen they beat Vanderbilt by 57 points, beat Georgia by 49, beat LSU by 40, beat Kentucky by 20 plus, won all 3 of those SEC tournament games by double digits, have won their first 2 games in the NCAA tournament by 20 plus. This is an explosive team. But the good thing about Alabama, and the show I was on this morning, they asked me about this, and I agree. Alabama's more equipped now to play a physical team than they were last month. This is a team, because of their youth. I said this all along, Rob. I told you this. I said Alabama's going to be better in December than they are in November. They're going to be better in January than they were in December. They're going to be better in February than they are in January. They're going to be better in March than they are in February. And hopefully they'll still be playing in April. They'll be better in April than they are now. This team continues to get better. I think the off-the-court adversity has brought them closer together. We've talked about this, the locker room, man. That is a safe haven for teams. And, this team's been through a lot. They've got a former player, a friend, a former teammate that's sitting in Tuscaloosa County Jail awaiting another bond hearing and potentially a grand jury trial on capital murder charges. So I think this team is a much more mature basketball team than they were even a month ago. So I think Alabama's more equipped to handle this style of play now. I think they're going to win the game, and I think they're going to advance to Sunday, and I think they're ultimately going to beat Creighton or Princeton, and I think they're going to the Final Four.
Yeah, I think they have a very clear path to it, but it's good to not be scared, but to be awake, because if you're scared, that means you're thinking about staying alive, in this tournament and doing the right things. And look at this, Gary, in this Sweet 16. You've got 3 SECs, 2 Big 12, 1 each from the Pac-12, the Big 10, and the ACC. So that's 8 of your 16. But of those other 8, 3 of them are from the Big East. That's impressive. And Marquette, a lot of people had Marquette getting to the Final Four. They're out. There's beyond the Power 5.
Oh, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing about basketball, because this tournament, pairs you down. When I was in Birmingham Saturday night in the locker room with Alabama, I posed this question to Jaden Bradley, who's just a freshman, but he had a really great response. I said, Jalen, there are to those that are saying that Alabama's had a clear path now because Baylor's been knocked out and Arizona's been knocked out. And he said, no, I don't see it that way at all. He said, and he's right. If you're playing now, if you're one of the final 16, doesn't matter what your seeding is. It doesn't matter what conference you're from. You're playing really good basketball because you don't win 2 games in the NCAA tournament and advance to the round of 16 unless you're playing really well. So every team left right now earned their spot, whether you're a 1 seed or you're a 15 seed like Princeton. Doesn't matter now. Throw seedings out the window. All these teams are either really good teams or they're teams that are playing their best basketball of the season. So you're absolutely right. Everybody at this point is capable of beating you. And I think that's the one good thing about Alabama. They know that, they understand that. They've won 31 games, but they have lost 5 games. They know they can be beaten. They understand the stakes. They understand the history of this program, how difficult it has been to get past this round. I think Nate Oates has made them aware of that, and they're not taking anything for granted. I think Alabama is going to play well, and if Alabama plays well, they're going to win the game. And for San Diego State to win, I think San Diego State has to obviously play really well, and I think Alabama's got to help them some. And but this thing, the deal with Alabama now, Rob, is early in the year it was when they make their threes, but if you can keep them from that's not the case. They can beat you different ways. They can beat and again, Alabama's defense is the most underrated aspect right now of their basketball team. Bediako's a terrific rim protector. They're long, they're athletic, their help defense is good. If they get beat off the dribble, they can recover. They can push you off the 3-point line. And Maryland is a good defensive team, but Maryland scored, Alabama only scored 73 points in that game, and they won by 22 because they held Maryland to 51. So I think Alabama's equipped to win in different ways. And again, there are no guarantees. Would I be shocked if Alabama comes back home to Tuscaloosa without advancing to Houston? I would not be shocked. But is it my expectation that they're going to win these next 2?
Yeah, and they look like they are, Gary. They look like they are a team that can win the next few games. They don't look like they're interested in slowing down at all. I mean, and this is like running a marathon. This is the last 6 miles. You're running. You've run this far. There's no way you're quitting. At least and you may not win it, but you're in another mindset right now.
Yeah, I think so. I think that, you play all year for this opportunity. Alabama played all year to be in this position. That I think they knew they had a team that could win the Southeastern Conference regular season championship. And once you got about 10 or 12 games in, Rob, that was the goal, and they had to work to earn it. They sat here at home against Auburn and with a chance to clinch the championship, 17 points down in the second half, and came back and won that game in overtime and got the SEC regular season championship. Then it was their goal to go to Nashville and not just win the regular season championship, but win the SEC tournament and have a chance at a number 1 seed. Mission accomplished. Not only they get a number 1 seed, they got the number 1 overall seed, which allowed them to play in Birmingham and pick their next destination, Louisville. So in other words, everything they've done to this point has been to put themselves in the best position to finish the drill and get to Houston. They've done that. But now you've got to win 2 more games. And you're right. I don't think there's any chance that there's going to be any type of letdown. This is a really strong basketball team mentally, again, with what they've dealt with. And even though there's a lot of young guys, you got a guy like Quinterly who's got tons of experience and has become the leader of this team after being the 6th man of the year in the SEC. He's back starting now. He's been phenomenal. So yeah, they're a really good basketball team. They've got all the ingredients needed to do what they're trying to do. They've got again height, they've got depth, they've got shooting, they've got defenders. I mean, it's the team, as I said to you last week, seize the moment. This is the time. If you're Alabama and you lose tomorrow night or you lose on Sunday, it's not a disaster. I mean, it's still been an unbelievable season. You can't take away what they've accomplished. But if you don't make it, next year you'll have a good team, but you may not have this kind of team. I mean, right now, this is the team that can erase the memories of 1976 and 1982 and 1987 and 1990 and 1991 and 2002 and 2004 and 2 years ago. Teams that I thought were good enough to go to the Final Four, but didn't. And this team is good enough. I think this is the best team that Alabama's had to this point. So, that's the challenge, to go beyond where those teams went and finally get to that Final Four.
Well, you've got to overcome yourself. I mean, you got to get out of your own way. There's a lot to that statement when people say it, and everybody, there's 15 other teams. You're right. They're all good. Throw out the seedings and all at this point. It's like, Brandon Miller's no longer a freshman. From what he's been through this year, he's had to mature or he would have collapsed. Not many people can, he's under a lot of scrutiny, and he's, that's another story. We're a sports show. We're going to talk about this tournament, and Brandon Miller, like Jabari Smith last year, when you got these 6'9", 6'10" guys that can post up and hit these 3-pointers and get in a rhythm and hit, several of them in a row, that's really difficult for any team to overcome. Bradley, Javon Quinterly, you're 6th man of the year in the SEC. That you don't win just with your starting 5. It's a lot like cross country. Your top 5 runners, lowest score wins, but you better teach your 6 and 7 runners to be their best, because in a tiebreaker they can get it for you. There's no margin for error. We know that, but you watch Alabama play. I don't see anybody beating them. I agree with Charles Barkley. I agree with you. Unless there was just to be a complete collapse, I don't see it happening. They're probably going to win the whole thing. I don't know. And there are some good teams. Don't get me wrong, but they have everything that it takes. Gary, I got to ask you about Pro Day. We got about 5 minutes before you got to go.
Yeah, I got to go in about
in Pro Day. Bryce Young, okay, he's the height 5'10". Again, look at Kyler Murray. He's 5'8" or 5'9". Stetson Bennett, he's 5'10". Everybody's fixated on the height. Mm-hmm. I'd be looking at the results of what they did in the best conference in America, week in and week out against the best competition in America, that would get my attention more than how tall somebody is.
Yeah, but you know how it is. I mean, like when you're talking about a chance to be the number 1 overall pick, they're looking for flaws. I mean, they're trying to. Yeah. I think sometimes they're looking for a reason not to draft you. And you're right, with Bryce. What else are you gonna? What else are you gonna look at? I mean, the guy is cool as a cucumber. I mean, I always go back to that drive in 2021 at Auburn. I mean, you're down, you haven't done much offensively the whole game. You're at your 3-yard line, you got no timeouts, you got a little over a minute to go, and he takes them 97. It's just and he is a phenomenal player. But the only downside that they can find, he's got leadership skills, he's got character, he is he's would be a great representative of your franchise. But he's 5'10", and CJ Stroud's bigger. So I think that Carolina's going to take either CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, and the Texans are going to take the other one. So at worst, Bryce Young is going to be the number 2 pick. But yeah, I think that Alabama, with all the success that Saban's had, he has not had a number 1 overall pick. And I think they would love to see Bryce go number 1. Today is a big day. Last night, David Tepper, the owner, Frank Reich, the head coach, the GM, they were all in Columbus yesterday. Then they flew into Tuscaloosa. They went to dinner with Bryce last night. They'll be at the pro day today. And, who knows? I think it's very close between these two quarterbacks. Maybe it's the experience they have in this personal setting with the two that'll be the deciding factor on who they draft. Everything I've read, Rob, from Charlotte indicates that Carolina head coach Frank Reich favors CJ Stroud, and that the owner, David Tepper, favors Bryce Young. So who wins out? Does the owner say, I want to make the decision on who we draft, or the owner say, I'm gonna let the GM and the head coach make the pick. So this is a big day for Bryce. I mean, they're gonna all be here as well as all the other teams, and they're gonna be, since he didn't throw it at the combine, they're gonna be watching him with a fine-tooth comb, and the stopwatches and the iPads, and tracking everything that he does. So it's going to be interesting when we get to the draft to see who Carolina takes, whether it's Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. Right now, before this pro day, and things could change, I feel like, this is just my opinion based on what I've read, if the draft were tonight, I think Carolina would take CJ Stroud, but it's not tonight, so we'll see what happens.
Well, if I'm going to buy a new truck, I damn sure want to test drive it. It better be four-wheel drive, or it's not a truck. And I'm going to look at the resume of CJ Stroud. Has to play a couple of tough teams a year, and Bryce Young plays them every week in the SEC. Give me the one who has a proven track record. Bryce Young would be my number 1 pick. And then Will Anderson, I want that guy too. Gary, look, we're about out of time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. Always love having you on. Tell people how they can follow you, because you are a tireless worker. My friend Dave Cody, longtime sports anchor out in Austin at Channel 7, is listening. Hail to the sports anchor, the sports reporters who go get the stories. Don't ever retire. But how can they follow you?
Yeah, Gary Harris _WVOA on Twitter. The website for the radio station, Tide109.com. You can download the app. I'm on from 9 to 11 every day Central Time, and then WVOA23.com for local Tuscaloosa sports. You can watch. We stream the newscast live. Listen and watch live at WVOA23.com. So thank you, Rob. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, look, man, and I hope the interns are got a pick yet. I'm sure they're picking Alabama, but look forward to having you on next week talking about the Tide.
All right, buddy. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. All right. That was Gary Harris, man. And in Tuscaloosa, you got 4 folks leaving from Channel 23 heading up to Louisville for the Sweet 16 tonight. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. Matt Dean, John Hartwell, AD Angle, talking the business side of college athletics, as well as some Sweet 16. Lots to talk about, lots to cover. More in a moment.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4 City exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Who, Dave? Okay, Rob Browne back here with you. Hour number 2 brought to you by Eleanor Maynard, Hobson Realty. Top 5% out of 4,600 realtors in Memphis in 2022. And 2023 off to a great start. Look, she is a third-generation Hobson realtor, fourth-generation Memphis residential realtor. It is in her blood, her DNA. You're looking to buy or sell a home in Memphis, or if you're relocating to Memphis, your job is moving you to Memphis. Welcome to the Bluff City. Don't pull your hair out. Don't stay up all night stressing out about how am I going to find a house. Go to the www.sidelines.live website, our website. Look on there. You'll see Eleanor's picture, Hobson Realty. Click on that hyperlink. It's got all of her contact information. Okay. She will get everything started. You've got to deal, with the bank, the closing attorney, all that. She's got a team, one call. It's very simple. Eleanor Maynard. Get her to be your realtor. She is Sidelines realtor, and you'll save yourself a lot of time worrying. Eleanor Maynard, Hobson Realty. Okay, Matt Dean going to join us here in just a moment from over in Memphis, and John Hartwell, the AD angle. I like what Gary Harris said. Alabama is definitely taking San Diego State seriously. They look to be a really good basketball team. And I'm anxious to hear what John Hartwell, Go Warhawks, ULM AD, Matt Dean, Associate AD over at Rhodes. We just had Gary Harris on from Tuscaloosa, guys. And John, I asked him about San Diego State. You've mentioned them a while back, along with Utah State, the Aggies, both made the NCAA tournament. San Diego State looks a lot like a football team. They're a physical big team. Gary said they have 7 seniors. What's that song? It never rains in Southern California. It never, now the song is, does anybody ever graduate? I mean, there were 11 guys in the tournament this year. Doug Dean gave us this information. 11 guys, 25 years or older. Experience matters. San Diego State's got a lot of experience. That's going to be a hell of a matchup, guys.
Yeah, San Diego State is very talented. Like you said, most of these guys have been together for a long time. Here's why I think they match up really well with Alabama. They're physical. The way that they play it is very much like an SEC team. You're not going to see them score 100 points. They are at their best when it's a 68-63 type of game, and they will flat out get after you defensively, and they're big enough inside and physical enough to where I think they match up really well. Brian Dutcher has done an unbelievable job there. Coach Fisher was there, for a while, and Dutch learned under him. I think that's going to be a great basketball game.
Great point about Gary Fisher was out there. The Aztecs, man, that football stadium. You sent a picture last year of the football stadium at San Diego State. That is every day it's 72 degrees, wind out of the north at 5 miles an hour, and it doesn't rain hardly. I mean, San Diego is heaven on earth. Matt, let's get your thoughts, man. this is just these 8 matchups we got tonight and tomorrow night. What a great time of year. I just now I don't want it to be this way every day because too much of a good thing isn't always good, but enjoy it while we got it.
I agree with John on San Diego State. I think it's going to be a heck of a ball game. I think physically they remind me a little bit of like an SEC team, maybe a Tennessee. They don't always look to score 70-plus points, but they're very comfortable, like John said, winning a 65-60, however you want to call it, basketball game. And Dutch has done a great job there. Quite frankly, the interesting thing is, I mean, I've got Bama in my Final Four, but look at the other side of that pod, Creighton and Princeton. We could see Creighton or Princeton obviously play Alabama, another contrasting style. And Creighton right now is playing really good basketball. You look at the Big East. I mean, I know Marquette was eliminated, but, you know, with UConn and Creighton, 2 great representatives left in that conference. And tonight I'm really looking forward to, you know, I want to see if Tennessee can continue to match what they've been doing against an FAU team that I predicted that would give everything and more to Memphis, and they did.
Yeah, we just had Dr. Bill Hargraves on, the president of the University of Memphis, in the first segment, and, you know, talking about the vision of what they want to do. John, you've had a few weeks to be on the job at ULM. What I love, and I was talking with Jimmy last night about this isn't just the Power 5. I love this. This is the Power 5 plus a hell of a lot more. And we pointed out, the Big East has 3 teams, and they damn near had 4. Marquette got knocked out. You know, call me old school, whatever. I just love competition, man. And, you know, you get better by playing better teams. Last year we had 351 schools that were eligible for March Madness. This year there were 363. That's a great indicator. That's optimism, man. You know, that's like an 85-year-old person buying a puppy. I love that.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and you look at all the storylines, you know, as Matt alluded to, you're either going to have Creighton or Princeton in the Elite 8. You know, either one of those, whoever wins that game could very well advance to the Final Four. You've got stories like Farley Dickinson, FAU. I mean, just unbelievable stories. And it gives everybody hope, and everybody loves the story of Rocky. I mean, it's the underdog mentality, you know, and so that is what, you know, makes March Madness. And I know there's people, you know, especially out there in the footprint of our listening audience who would argue that the CFP game is equally as exciting. Not over a period of time, not over a 3-week period when you have so many storylines in it. I mean, here's one, you know, you've got tonight. It's the, you know, and probably the most proud person in this that will be in the arena, I'm sure, tonight is Kevin White, the recently retired athletic director at Duke. His 2 sons' schools, you know, Brian is the athletic director at FAU. Danny is the athletic director at Tennessee, and they're playing each other. So many storylines in March Madness, and that's what, again, I think still makes it, and it will continue to be the greatest, 3 weeks in sports, regardless, not just collegiate sports, but sports regardless.
Yeah, and I'm looking at my brackets, okay? My bracket and my wife's bracket. In my bracket, my Final Four, Alabama, Kansas State, Miami, and Kansas. I got 3 of my guys still alive. Audrey has Alabama, Kansas State, UCLA, and Texas A&M. Well, she's got 3 out of 4. All right, state of the brackets. Matt, where do you stand right now?
I believe it or not, I have all 4. I got Alabama, Tennessee, Houston, and UCLA still alive. Now,
because you're a coach.
The asterisk there, though, Rob, the asterisk is Matt filled that bracket out yesterday.
You're giving away my secrets, John.
But John, let's get your state of the brackets. I love this.
Hey, you know what? Y'all are going to find this hard to believe, but I actually, you know, being in the business 25 years ago and hearing compliance guys year after year saying, hey, you can't complete a bracket. If you do, it's for recreational purposes only. I just don't even do one anymore because nobody's going to get it perfect. I think, especially with all that's happened this year, and that's what makes it so exciting. Hey, here's my question though, as we talk about the 16 teams left, and I know that the fine folks, Hewlett and Dunn, who sponsor the team, I heard rumor that that nice shirt that Rob's wearing today, that he's going to do his best Eric Musselman impersonation and rip it off and start showing off his, the results of the curl sets he did this morning before we went on the air.
Holy cow, Musselman, man, he does get crazy. But we actually were out at Hewlett and Dunn yesterday. Folks, got to check out that website, hewlettanddunn.com. They are getting so much cool stuff in there every day. It is awesome. But I tell you what, Coach, you think about these Final Four and these brackets. And I said this to Dr. Hargraves in the first segment because he has a PhD in information systems from Oklahoma State and was at Arkansas and Auburn, dean of the College of Business, now the president at the University of Memphis. I was told there were over 20 million brackets filled out on ESPN's website. After the first day, there were only 653 that got it exactly right. Now, you with a background in accounting, John, that statistically, it's a very small percentage.
Yeah, you have a better opportunity of going and buying some Powerball tickets and winning that than you do in getting your bracket correct.
Yeah, that is true. Look at all these matchups on here. We just talked with Gary Harris about Alabama and San Diego State and Tennessee and Florida Atlantic. Matt, when I looked at that matchup, saw where Florida Atlantic had only played one team all year that had advanced to make it to the field of 68. It didn't matter. They went blow for blow with Memphis. And at the end of the game, they got the win. Talk about this matchup. And Tennessee seems to take it as a source of pride and team building that they don't have their point guard. They're playing some really good basketball. They put a hurt on Duke.
Well, Florida Atlantic won 33 games, guys. I don't care who you are, what conference you play in. Yeah. You win 33 games, you're pretty good, okay?
Yeah.
I look at Tennessee this way. We've said all year, Tennessee's a team that could get hot and go to the Final Four, or they could have a really bad offensive night and lose to anyone. If you watched the Louisiana game last weekend, John, I think that was 48-30, 10 minutes to go. And the next thing you know, late in the game, Louisiana had a chance to possibly take that game into overtime. So tonight, I'm looking at FAU a lot like the Louisiana matchup. It's going to be a really tough game for Tennessee because they may not score 60, but doesn't mean they can't win the ball game because they may limit you in the 50s. I just think another thing is you change your mind in this tournament. And I'll give you a great example. Last week, my alma mater was pounding Miami. It was 55-47. There was probably 5 minutes to go in the game. Miami goes on a 16-1 run. They win the game, and then they play absolutely lights out against Indiana. So right now, people are looking at Miami like which Miami team's going to show up. They have some great guard play. They spread the floor. Larinaga does a great job. So I guess my whole point with this is FAU is very capable of winning the ballgame tonight. They really are.
Hey, I'll add to that. If you look at last night's NIT quarterfinal game between UAB and Vandy in Nashville, which UAB goes up there and wins that game.
Yeah.
I think FAU actually beat UAB 3 times this year, and beating any team 3 times is tough, but that gives you an indication of how good that FAU team is. And, oh, by the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't give my guy A.K. Andy Kennedy a plug for what he's done at UAB too. But they go to the Final Four, the NIT, which for us basketball historic aficionados, the fact that it's no longer in Madison Square Garden, that it's moved to Vegas, I don't agree with that move, and I think the significance of playing in Madison Square Garden is something, but it has changed to there. One other just real quick point. I know we talk about talent, we talk about players, but don't forget about when you get to March Madness, the importance of coaches. And for all those guys that wanted to write Michigan State off, they're struggling. That guy, I would not bet against that guy in an NCAA tournament game. And, you could say the same thing about Mark Few, too. Everybody said, Gonzaga, they were not nearly as good this year. Those two teams right there, they're coached by some pretty good coaches.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about Tom Izzo at Michigan State. And this is his 15th Sweet 16. And I think he's been to 9 Final Fours, one national championship, but it's a model of consistency. Kansas State with a first-year coach, that's an intriguing matchup. Matt, I mean, what gives here? Who you think's gonna come out on top tonight? Because I don't know. I'm a Tom Izzo fan because you know why? He's a hard ass and he doesn't really give a damn. He ain't gonna be soft on you. And I've never respected anybody in my life that gave me an easy out. That's why I love that guy as a coach. He's one of my favorite coaches in any sport.
John is spot on again. Tyson Walker going back to his home, Brooklyn, New York tonight, playing the Garden. You're telling me he's not going to be ready to go? I just think Izzo is a step above everybody else. I mean, and I know Coach K is the GOAT, but I'm just tell you what, when it comes to this time of year, when you have to take the basketball life away from Michigan State, it is a hard task. They will fight you down to the last second. They really do. And I was intrigued because I thought Kansas State made 2 huge threes late to beat Kentucky and Cal. I think it's a great game tonight, but I'm not going to bet against Izzo the rest of the tournament. And another guy that I give a lot of props to is Coach Barnes. I think, after that game, I was watching some pundits, John, and I heard what Seth Greenberg said about the officiating. I'm like, man, have you not watched the SEC all year? That's the way those games have been played. I think the SEC arguably right now, I know we talked a lot about the Big 12 guys. SEC's proven their style of play is winning an NCAA tournament.
Yeah, that's good. I tell you one other coach, while we're talking about coaches, you got to give out a shout out to Rodney Terry and the job he's done in Texas. Went in there in the interim role. Nobody really gave him a shot. Nobody had expectations for what they would do. And he took a difficult situation and has done an unbelievable job there in Austin.
So, John, I have a question for John, Rob. If you're the AD in Austin, Texas right now, John, why haven't you named Rodney Terry your permanent head coach yet? I'm just curious.
That's a great question. I have a ton of respect for Chris Del Conte, the AD there in Texas. And you just wonder if there are other factors in there that play in. Is there an agenda from some Board of Trustees members? What? Because nothing on the surface leads you to believe that they should not have already done that.
Yeah, I agree. Let's take a quick break. I want to come back to that because, there are people thinking, well, Cal's going to leave Kentucky and go to Texas. And who knows? But I think it's what John just said. Sidelines going to be right back with you on this Thursday after this quick commercial break.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
folks over at ECS House Industries here in the Mississippi Delta and all over the country and the world. We got the crop dusters flying over the house here in the early morning strafes. It's just, I mean, like World War I fighter pilots, aces, the Red Baron, just 50 feet above the house, putting those pre-emergent herbicides out there to get rid of pests like cyst nematodes and other insects that can mess up your crop. But man, we're proud to have ECS House Industries as a sponsor. They are all over. Check them out on our website. Contact them. They'll make your life better. Also, rumbleboxinggym.com/Midtown Memphis and Camp Lee opening up 3 locations in the Memphis market. First one around mid-April, she's going to open it up. And you need to go to the website, the Founders Club. It is a discount on the membership. There's only so many of those. They will be opening mid-April. Now, the layout is this: 24 weight benches on one side, 24 punching bags on the other, and in the middle, 45-minute intense group workouts. No quitters, no whiners, only winners accepted. You need to join, and you will get the workout of your life. It's great for you to do in between once they open. Can you imagine? That'd be a great place to go and watch March Madness, because John and Matt, watching these games is tough. It's like watching your kid pitch or play sports, but you get vested, especially if you've got a bracket that you filled out. And you talk about the Texas situation. They have more money for athletics than any school in America. And I want both of y'all to give me your take on this. Money alone doesn't solve all the problems. I've heard it said, if money can solve it, it's not a problem. But why at a school like Texas? Maybe it is because you got a room full of guys like J.R. Ewing in there and nobody can make a decision. Is that what it is? Because Texas A&M and Texas lack for absolutely nothing.
Yeah, you make a great point there, Rob. And, in some cases, and none of us can speak unequivocally what that magic sauce is. Sometimes you have too many cooks in the kitchen. When you're answering to 5 or 6 different people, that doesn't make it a very efficient mode of operation. I don't care whether it's sports or business or anything else that you're doing. But I think in part of this, fit is really important. I was having that conversation. We're in process, hopefully coming down the home stretch in the search for a women's basketball coach. And, there are a lot of coaches out there that know the X's and O's. They know recruiting, they know player development, they know all of those things, but not every one of them can you just plug and play, depending on the situation with the institution, the resources, the geographical location, all of those things play in there. And I think sometimes when I say we as athletic directors or fans or whatever your perspective is, you get enamored with a name without really doing the drill down on it and say, hey, here are the reasons, and doing an analysis of here are the reasons why I think this individual can be successful here or why they can't be successful. But I think a really important thing in this, and again, this spans every industry, not just the sports world, is human resource, HR decisions, i.e. hiring decisions. There's no matter how much due diligence you do, they are not slam dunks every time. They are not 100% decisions. And so I think that plays in there as well.
Matt, your take on
John's on fire today because, the one thing I learned, John, about the AD job, because I was a longtime coach that went into administration, was it's a glorified human resource job. So, I'll give you an example, even from my level. When we hired a head football coach 2 years ago, I had a 9-person committee. One of the most important people on that committee was our director of admissions. And I'll tell you why. At Rhodes, we want to bring in 35 football players a year. That's approximately net tuition revenue, $800,000 to $900,000 to the college. So they want a say on this. My direct report wants a say on this. My president wants a say on this. Then I have a 9-player football council, leadership council. They want a huge say on the job, okay? And I'm not even dealing with the money side, John, the booster side that other people are. So it's a big-time vetting process. You're never going to always get it right. You have a feeling. Everyone has an idea of a short list. If you don't, you're in the wrong industry. Everybody's got a short list on any position in their department, unless you start getting into some of the Olympic sports where I have no idea in certain sports. But for your basketball job at Louisiana Monroe, and John Hartwell's a basketball guy, I'm pretty sure John had somewhat of an idea going into this process who he wanted to target. But then there's hurdles. Even if your top person is your top person, you have to go through a process. You have to vet the process. There's background checks. You think these things take 24, 48 hours? Not the case. They take a while.
Yeah, take months. I mean,
well, for some
yeah. So you're down there at ULM. You've come in. You've got 21 sports maybe that you're playing. You got to look at everything. A head coach in football is in charge of football. An athletic director, and I mean, that's why people call athletic directors coach more often than not. You got 21 sports that you're responsible for.
Coach the
and
coaches.
Yeah, and that's you're like a sales manager, and out on the trading floor, and there's so much going on, and then there's donors. Our good friend, well, yes, sir, Foghorn Leghorn. I've been sitting there counting my money. What are you doing today twixt 11:30 and 12? I think I'm going to come by and tell you what I want to happen there at Acme University, whatever. But you're different. You're not just, an athletic director. You got a background in public accounting with E&Y. My son, Wilson, I was talking to him last night. I was like, man, can I get back to watch this movie? He's working 16 hours a day up in Charlotte for in this training program in investment banking. I love his attitude. He goes, hey, man, if you didn't go to the Ivy League, UNC, UVA, Vanderbilt, SMU, Texas, they don't even think you exist. You got to bust your way through the wall, kick ass, and say, hey, I ain't taking no. Okay? And he's working, and I'm not talking 5 days a week. He's doing it on the weekends. He's myopic. That's what you got to have, isn't it? That kind of mentality. I mean, you got 21 teams. It's like having 21 children, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And you make a great point, Rob. And here's a perfect illustration. As I look at resumes, or I have candidates call, or in whatever manner they get in front of my eyes or our group's eyes as a potential candidate, here's something I'm looking for. And again, you've got to know your location. You got to know your institution and what fits there. And this is no disrespect to these people, but if I look at a resume of someone who's been a student athlete at Ohio State, they've worked at Florida, they've worked at Texas, and they've worked at Southern Cal, I'm probably passing on that.
Yeah.
There. Not any disrespect to that individual or any of those institutions, but the one thing that tells me is they've never had to think outside the box from a budget or a financial perspective. They've been at institutions that have all the resources they need to be successful. I love seeing somebody who's been at a Division III or an NAIA or a junior college or something somewhere along the way, because, as you go through a job description, whether it's for a head coach or a compliance director or anything, they're all going to have, at the very end of it, and other duties as requested.
Yeah.
At ULM, those other duties as requested, for the athletic director, maybe picking up trash on campus, or, if, hey, we're short a grounds crew person one day, picking up a rake, doing things like that. And I love seeing that experience, because that tells me, whether they say it verbally, whether their body language says that. But if you ask somebody to do something and you get this look or a response that that's not in my job description, you're probably not going to be a good fit here.
Oh my God. You're done. I'd fire you on the spot. That's not in my job. Hey, you know what? You get yourself to work every morning and you say, "Morning, sir. What can I do to help?" Go make the coffee. That's what a buddy of mine said. Tell your kids, make the call, get there early. What can I do to help? Volunteer for the tough stuff. I love that, what you just said, John and Matt. I had been programmed from the LaSallian Christian Brothers at Christian Brothers High School in Memphis. If you walked by 9th through 12th grade, a piece of trash on that campus at 5900 Walnut Grove, and you didn't pick it up, guess what you did after school? You picked up all the trash on campus. And Brother Adrian had eyes in the back of his head. He could see you. But I remember that when I got to Auburn as a freshman, probably took me 2 weeks. I would get to class and I'd have a handful of trash that I'd picked up on the way, and I kept putting a tie on in the morning. I'm programmed, but I'm glad I did that. And it's those little things that matter. And I think you're right, John. I know you're right. And Matt, you know this. I'll be over at Rhodes Sunday afternoon, Matt, for that wild game dinner at the Sigma Nu House we're doing with Bud Ritchie and Pierre Landash, and we're going to have some great Cajun food. But you love – the more I do this show, and we're all about the same age, and the more you go through life, the more you love the D1, the D2, the D3 guys. They are purists that love – the people that are in the stands at CBU or at Rhodes watching basketball that don't have a kid there just because they love the game. John loves it. John loves everything about it. He wouldn't be doing this. He didn't have to. You don't have to. You could go do other things. You genuinely love it. I hate to say this, but I'm sure there are plenty of guys at these big schools John just mentioned, these big brand names, that are doing it for the money, not for love of the game. And they don't maybe care as much about the student athletes. I can tell you one thing. Both of y'all as coaches and athletic directors take incredible pride, I bet, when you see people that you've mentored along the way, who've overcome odds, who've been told they weren't good enough, weren't this, weren't that, would never graduate. I mean, and then they overcome all that, and you see them coming. The odds were stacked against them. We all love David. Remember what Shug Jordan said? I recall David was a 40-point underdog against Goliath. How'd that work out? So that's all I got to say. I'm Foghorn Leghorn. You have to hold on for a second before you get back in this conversation, but I love what both of y'all guys bring to the table. Not that I have anything against someone who's an AD at a Power 5 school, but the ones who have worked their ass off to get where they are, that never forget to thank the people along the way that made them who they are. That's what y'all are.
No, that's kind of you, Rob. Yeah, I mean, I think back, and my dad used to always say this: "Hey, we all put our pants on one leg at a time, and don't ever forget not only who you are, but whose you are." And I think that's really important. That sometimes in today's society, with the world of social media and all the other potential pitfalls out there, that is it. I adhere. I'm just a regular guy from South Alabama, or LA, as Rob likes to call it. I keep it simple, stupid. The KISS theory always works.
Yeah, it does. And, sports teach you the lessons of life, don't they, Matt?
They do. And the KISS theory, John, is what I grew up with my mentor, Coach Hilgeman. And when I had a chance right before he hired me, he sat me down. He said, "What's the most important part of you being my assistant coach?" And I'm like, "Man, Coach, I got to get you players. We got to do this. We got to do this." He goes, No. It's loyalty. He goes, "That's the only thing I'm looking for. You and I can disagree, but in front of the players, we are a united front. In here, we can have discussions." And, he had a big saying: when we win, it's all the players. And when we lose, it's on us. And we got to work harder. And that's kind of the way I've shaped my career. When I was in John's role as an AD, anytime I had a coach on the road that won a game, I sent him a quick text. I noticed I follow John on Twitter. I know when his softball team wins. I know when his baseball team wins. You want to know why? He lets the world know. And those student athletes, John, that's important to them. They want to know that their athletic director has their back. And that's a big time. In my mind, that's one of the things we have to do to show our kids is that we care. And that's what John does, and that's why he's very successful.
Well, both of y'all. I mean, I love what you just said. You got 21 teams. you know, if they know that you care about their winning and their losing. Look, you're going to say something, win or lose. Remember, win or lose, because what will kill a program more quickly than any of that stuff is apathy. You want fans raising hell. That means they care. That's just my take. John, I know you got a meeting with the High Council today or something at 9:30. So let people know how they can reach out to you. We got a couple of minutes before the break. Help you out, support you, whether you're a ULM fan or not. Like you said, I want to get that LSU guy. I want to get that guy from La Tech. I want that local businessman. There's some people that make duck calls there in Monroe, Louisiana. It ain't the Quachita River Basin. It's the Ouachita River Basin. Let's talk some Red Hawks and the Warhawks. I want to hear what your vision is, though, for people that want to help you. Give me the 30-second elevator speech.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the easiest way to follow us, it's not about John Hartwell. It's about ULM athletics. Warhawks.com is our athletic website. John_Hartwell is Twitter. You know, and again, it's about providing the tools and resources necessary for our student athletes, all 370 of them, to be successful in the classroom, on the fields of play, and ultimately in the game of life. I mean, their career as a student athlete is only a short window of their life. And our biggest thing is we're educators. We've got to prepare these young men and young women to be successful, no matter what career they choose professionally.
Yeah. John, we got a few seconds before the break, and Matt's going to stay on with us. Jordan Love, you had him as a football player. You were AD at Utah State. Things moving fast for him right now. Has he sent you a cheese head? And bring him on Sidelines with you sometime. We'd love to talk. The SAG family. I got a lot of Packer fans that are friends of mine that are cheese heads for life. And
hey,
you've had a chance.
He will be glad to do that. Jordan is one of the most grounded young men I've ever seen. You know, he hasn't complained and talked about his situation of being a backup to Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. And when his number is called as the starter, which it's coming, he is going to be ready to seize the moment. That's the way he's been since he was a 17-year-old kid from California, from Bakersfield, walking onto campus in Logan, Utah. He is just that quality of a young man, and I can't wait to see him, getting his shot as an NFL starting quarterback.
Well, it's going to be fun. John Hartwell, thank you so much for being with us. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more Matt Dean on the AD Angle on Thursday. All right, Rob Browne back here with you. Matt, that was a great segment about what AD's role is and at all levels. And that is a tight fraternity. D1, 2, 3. They all share in common the same goals. But I think it's more important than anything, if you've worked your way up through, maybe smaller schools, mid-sized schools, and then you get to a place like Tennessee or LSU, great, that's wonderful, or Memphis. But the ones who, to me, it's like in school, when you the things you struggle the most with, when you finally get it and that light comes on, like studying for the Series 7 securities license, about a third of the test questions are about options. And that's the hardest thing for people to grasp. But once you figure out what a put or a call is or a straddle is, man, it's fun. But I just love talking with you and John about just the richness and how much you care about these student athletes. And Herb Hilgeman saying, look, players, all that, we'll get all that. I need loyalty. I need a united front. Okay. And loyalty is a two-way street. You know that. Yeah. But you should always surround yourself with winners. There are a lot of people that just take comfort in failure because then, there's no lofty standard to meet. Lowering the bar to make, and lowering who you are to make other people around you feel less uncomfortable is BS. I mean, that's a disservice to them. You ever meet anybody, and you have, and I have, that's very successful in athletics, in business, entertainment, whatever. You ever notice, like, you shake hands with them, it's like you just got tased. It's just like, wow. Because positive mindset, junk in your head, what comes out? Junk comes out. Positive in, positive out. That's the whole thing about sports. And what's more fun than coaching at any level, working people, putting a plan together that, and there's a method to the madness, and then seeing the results. Maybe you don't always win, but people learn, hey, if I want something, anything in life worth having's worth fighting for, correct?
No doubt, Rob. And I think you mentioned earlier just how important it is to have a vision. And part of your vision as an athletic director is realizing there's going to be some bumps in the road, right? And I think what John's going through right now at ULM, those first 100 days, he's meeting with coaches, he's meeting with administrators in the direct report, he's meeting with donors potentially, and he's trying to create, his own team, so to speak. I mean, you don't go in there and you just don't level it, but there are positions that he's going to probably replace. And at the end of the day, when you see your boss, when you see John Hartwell out there working as hard as he does, it makes you work. Well, you want to work harder. And I think that's a servant leader mentality, right? And that's what I've grown up with for my 32 years at Rhodes College, with my mentor. I remember when we would work the home football games as a staff, Coach Hildeman would grab a trash bag and we would go up through the stands. Now, we didn't have 100,000 seat stands. We had 2,500.
Yeah.
But our team's out there picking up trash.
Yeah.
After a home football game. And you know what? That carries over to life, not just basketball. It carries over to life. Like you're talking about Brother Adrian and Christian Brothers in the little things about how important the detail. It matters, and quite frankly, when you do those things and you get in your professional careers, I know it's helped you. I mean, look how successful you are. I feel the same way. And I could have gone to bigger places. I could have gone to Division I opportunities, but carving a niche at a tremendously selective academic liberal arts college for 32 years has been one of the most rewarding things in my career.
Well, it is. And, people listening, if you ever come to Memphis, we have a lot of listeners in Memphis, but all over, go visit that campus. It's been a movie set for quite a few movies, but it's absolutely gorgeous. I don't know how many universities in America can claim this, but they have their own rock quarry in the state of Arkansas. Now, Matt, have you ever been to Virginia Tech up in Blacksburg on Smith Mountain?
I have not, but I've heard great things.
I mean, my brother-in-law played football up there and got two nieces that graduated from Virginia Tech. Go Hokies. It's Rhodes on top of a mountain.
Wow.
It's just gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. But I think what John said was right. I might just pass, you because you've been at Florida, you've been at Southern Cal, you've been at Ohio State. Nothing against that. That's great. But when you get here, you're going to have to do some other things. Okay. It's like guys come back from the NFL to college and they think that at 4:30 or 5, it's time to go home. They're going, no, get your phone out and start texting these 16, 17-year-old recruits. And where's your sleeping bag in your office? Because you're going to be living in the office. I know a friend of mine was on the football staff with Auburn when Gene Chizik got there, and he turned the athletic complex, had areas kids and stuff. Said, what are you doing? He goes, well, your kids are going to be spending a lot of time up here because you're going to be living here, recruiting. This is Auburn, and we're competing for championships. We're going to be, 18, 20-hour days. You might as well, have a place where everybody's having fun. But that's what I see. If you're going to work people hard, there's got to be some fun mixed in there. All right, this Sweet 16, you talked about Rick Barnes, Jim Larinaga at Miami, Tom Izzo. Of all these matchups out there, we hadn't talked about today Arkansas and UConn. UConn's got 4 national championships, 3 with Jim Calhoun, 1 with Kevin Ollie. That match in Arkansas, Eric Musselman playing 4 freshmen, a lot this year. The amazing story there is, and I hope they keep winning, is that they've put aside the stat sheets and their personal agendas for the good of the Razorbacks. That's a great storyline, isn't it?
It is, and they're a very talented defensive team, which matters a lot in elimination playoff tournament basketball. They held Kansas to what? Was it 71 points? Was it 72-71 final? I mean, Kansas is explosive. I mean, Kansas puts up numbers in the 80s and 90s against most people in the country. Yeah. So tonight, it's going to be really, UConn has a really big presence inside. They have tremendous outside shooting. Arkansas is going to guard. Can they stay out of foul trouble? I know they played without a larger rotation. I actually like Arkansas tonight. I do. I think there's a great chance they move on. And then, you look at the other side of the bracket, you got one of the better offensive teams in the country in Gonzaga against one of the better defensive teams and better defensive coaches left in UCLA and Mick Cronin. That pod, I mean, as fun as last weekend was, Rob, we got some great matchups. I mean, I think Alabama fans feel good, but I'm going to tell you what, San Diego State is going to play hard. I think Alabama is too talented offensively for them. But when you have a bad shooting night, this tournament can send you home. And that's what the beauty of it is, and that's what's really hard about it.
It is. And again, go back to Mick Cronin, UCLA, Gonzaga. Mark Few, 20-plus years out at Gonzaga. He's not going anywhere. He has made Gonzaga.
And people have tried. You're right.
Yeah. He loves it there, and he doesn't need to go anywhere else. He's made Gonzaga now a program that the Big 12 is going after, essentially. That would be interesting. I think, basketball only. It's a small private Jesuit university. Shout out to all the small private Catholic universities that year in and year out do so well in basketball. I'm going to tell you what, Mark Few is one of my favorite coaches, what they do. Timmy is a hell of a player. Last year they had him and Chet Holmgren. They were the number 1 seed overall. The Razorbacks took them out.
They did.
I think Gonzaga this year is playing better in more of the underdog role. I know you should always want to be number 1, but they look more comfortable.
They do. I just think sometimes when you're a program at that level and you're able to play under the radar, which they've done so far, it eases your mind. And probably less media coverage than they've had in the past because, you mentioned with Timmy and Chet Holmgren, they were just the number 1 overall seed. But you knew last year, Rob, I felt like Memphis had them on the ropes early on. Yeah. They survived that game, and then Arkansas obviously took care of it after that. The Gonzaga UCLA game, you got 2 great coaches, you got 2 great programs, one historic program with national championships, and that's UCLA and John Wooden. Arkansas has won championships. UConn's won championships. That whole pod is just really, really fun to watch. Another team I'm really intrigued by, I mentioned it earlier, which Miami team will show up. Kelvin Sampson is 2 games away from getting his Houston Cougars to a Final Four in Houston, Texas. That's pretty cool. And I would have told you at halftime of the Auburn game, they're not getting to the Sweet 16. Auburn had literally kicked their tails for the first 20 minutes of that game. Yeah. And you can make an argument that if Auburn does a better job at the foul line, that game goes down to the last minute. But I think Houston got their reprieve. They survived. I think they'll find a way to beat Miami. I think Rodney Terry has done a tremendous job at Texas. On the lower side of that bracket, Sean Miller, great coach, was removed at Arizona, had some NCAA problems. They are gone. The Xavier Texas game is another really good game. There's not a bad game left. Now, when you look at Creighton Princeton, maybe that's not popping out to you, but it's intriguing that the winner goes to the Elite Eight. So I'm just curious about tonight. I think Tennessee's going to get it done against FAU, but I think FAU is going to fight hard, and I just can't argue against some of the things they've done this year. You know, we talked about UAB and Andy Kennedy and his success in the NIT. In the conference tournament final, FAU beat that team by 22 points, 78-56. Yeah. So it's going to be another rock fight at the Garden. Yeah, it's going to be.
And you mentioned, well, you know, you mentioned Las Vegas this year, unfortunately, but you talked about that. FAU beat UAB this year 3 times.
That's right.
That's Andy Kennedy's doing a really good job. At
UAB's good. They're NCAA tournament.
These teams that are, they are. And you look around like Xavier, okay? Well, Marquette was a team. You had Marquette pretty high, didn't you?
I thought they had a shot to go to the Elite Eight or Final Four. I really did.
Yeah, and that would have been 4 Big East teams. So as much as we talk about the Big 12 throughout the season being the best league in the country, right now SEC has 3 teams, Big 12 has 2, and the Big East has 3. Do you say? I mean, you know, Big East is. I mean, that is that's a basketball savant league. Okay, you see the Southern Conference. You know what you see out of a lot of the so-called mid-majors or smaller schools, exceptional coaching, because they're not necessarily going to out-athlete or out-talent a bigger school. They're going to try to use the cerebral part of it. That's big. That's where you get your Bucky McMillans, and that's where you get your Mark Fuse. That's how he's risen up, isn't it?
It is, and coaching matters. And I know we briefly talked about the whole college football playoff analogy, but you're not going to see an FAU or San Diego State play for a CFP championship. You're not. Yeah. But you can in basketball. And you look at the great story with Kennesaw State 4 years ago. That coach was 1-28. And,
he was whoa. Rewind. He was 1-20. This was their 4th year.
I think so. 1-28 the first year he took over the program, and they go. Not only did they play in the NCAA tournament, they had Xavier down 13, I believe, Rob, with 8 to 10 minutes to play. You know, so I mean, you can do it. I just think basketball in a 2 or 3 year window, if you have the right person and you got some resources and you work hard, you can build a program that can compete with most programs in the country. And that's why, John Hartwell's perfect for Monroe. He's going to find the right person or people in that department in those programs. He's already got a great football coach.
Yeah, and I love his analytical mind. I mean, you have a background in accounting at E&Y, and he worked in the private sector. He understands the big picture. Hey, out of time, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us, and go out and help with the expectation to get nothing in return. Don't give to get, give to give. I love that from my friend Jay Evers. Matt, a couple of minutes left. You know, tonight, I do love, by the way, the multi-view screen that you get. I mean, it's like, you know, Jimmy Ott and Frank Duffy, they like to go out to Las Vegas or the big casinos with all the screens. You know, we're going to be in Memphis today again, so we are almost every day. You go to all the bars, restaurants. It's the basketball's on everywhere. But think about if Memphis were still alive.
Oh.
You know, this city just it is just unbelievable, the pulling together effect that it has. And that I don't know what it is about March Madness. Maybe it's that it's always around St. Patrick's Day, and it's just an incredible time of the year. It is the greatest. I love it. And then you got the Masters right after that. It's just what's not to like.
Well, Rob, think about this too. If Memphis gets by FAU, which a lot of people thought they should have, and deservedly so. What if tonight's Memphis and Tennessee in the Garden? Are you are you telling me, man, that would have been all-time historical, brother? I mean, that would have been up there with your David and Goliath matchup. I mean, I'm just telling you.
Yeah, remember 1983 when Kentucky and Louisville played in Knoxville, and that look what that turned into. This is why we love sports, folks. Is these matchups? It's not, as Stat Tiger says, it's not how you match up on paper during the week. It's how you match up on game day.
Yeah,
that's why they play the games. You know, along your journey through life, a lot of people are going to tell you, hell no, it cannot be done. There's no way. Treat the word impossible as motivation. And you can yell and scream at people all day long, but until that fire burns from within, I go back to the great creed my friends told me about at Fort Benning, sua sponte, of your own accord. You got to want it and go get it. Hey, great show. See y'all tomorrow. Until then, have a great one. We're out of here.